So, welcome. So, just to get us started and introduce, and everybody knows who's on stage, and they can associate you. Can I ask you, maybe in the same order, to give us like a 2-minute introduction about your company and your role? Stéphane.
Good morning, Eric. Good morning, everybody. So my name is Stéphane Ormand. I'm in charge of distribution for Air France-KLM Group. So Air France-KLM Group is just a big, let's say, network airline, including a low-cost asset called Transavia. But what is important for our discussion today, I think it's the fact that we are selling tickets all over the world, and to a very wide range of customers, from the backpacker, the VFR traffic, to the very high-end, let's say, luxury travelers. And my role is definitely to make sure that we have the capabilities to sell our products all over the world. And when I say selling product, it means technical capabilities, best cost, ability to include innovation in it. So it's just, that's the scope of my current responsibility. Sorry.
Thanks, Stéphane. And you, Roland?
Good morning. Aegean and Olympic, we are both airlines. We are the largest Greek airline since 2009. Fully recovered since the third quarter last year. We're going to have 15 million passengers, a little bit more. This year we operate 76 aircraft, that's 61 jets and 15 turboprops. We have had an EBIT margin of 10.8% last year, which is the second highest in Europe in 2022. And out of that base, we're going into 2023. We have worked a lot in the direction of e-retailing and offer management. We are going to talk about maybe one opening statement. Our share of GDS bookings today is less than 10% on total number of bookings on our two airlines.
That's impressive. Thanks for opening like that. Stéphane, you can be prepared to say your own numbers just after that.
I will.
Thank you, Roland. And Christian.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christian Hylander. I work for Mastercard. It's a global payment scheme, probably pretty known for everyone here in the room. We operate in over 210 countries globally, connecting consumers with merchants like airlines, with issuing banks and acquiring banks. And our role is to process these payments in a safe, quick, and swift manner. But I work in the data and services division of Mastercard, dealing with the billions of card transactions that take place. And what I do is that basically support airlines predominantly with data insights around customers, about markets. Airlines are rich on data, we know, but we can go even deeper, more granular. We can go on geolocation basis. Passengers don't live at an airport. They actually live elsewhere. And we can help you to define where do they come from, where do they spend outside of the airline transaction as such. And what we do is that we create an additional layer of insights, which hopefully enriches the airline to understand that there are certain gaps that needs to be closed one way or another. These gaps require some actions, and these actions can be through the Mastercard work, and the work I do can be closed by testing off. Business experimentation is something which is key for me. Try out what works before you scale it. So that's very much my daily work. I'm not a payment expert, but I obviously have a background, 27 years from the airline industry before joining Mastercard. So I pretty understand what you are facing.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll put that in the context, because the context is distribution has been a hot topic with NDC, and how airlines have been dealing with global distribution systems, GDS, in terms of adoption. Now the next big elephant in the room for many airlines is also how to improve on payment, because credit cards have been there also for some time. And the global payment systems that we have are the card networks. And so really what will be interesting to know is how that modernization of payment, new payment methods, etc., that we'll discuss, how the relationship is going to work between airlines and payment network. Is it going to be the same as with GDS? Is it going to be different? And I'm sure we can talk about that. And maybe we start there, with distribution. The theme of the event is, the customer and customer of tomorrow. And so I'd like to start with that and ask maybe Stéphane and Roland, how you see the evolution in customer behavior, especially, post-COVID, and how you see that impacting distribution and your work in distribution. I know, Stéphane, if you want to start.
Okay, what we can say, I would say high level, is definitely that now the business is booming like as a rebound after the COVID crisis, which is very, very stunning is the yield increase, which is completely almost insane, I would say, in the range that we are observing. What we can say also is that definitely leisure is, in terms of share, it's interesting and important to keep in mind that we are really dealing with a very wide range of typology of passengers. So we are facing a mixity when we're talking about the 10% of GDS shares within your let's say distribution scope. It's completely different for us because of that mixity of passengers. We are still facing something like 30 to 40% of GDS sales in our GDS traditional EDIFACT technology sales in our scope of distribution. And what we are facing now is that the leisure travelers are really definitely back to business, while the corporations are still significantly behind, I would say. Huh? Mm-hmm. So it's changing strongly, of course, the mix that we are observing. So what we can say today is that kind of very, very big change. And it trigger questions like when you have big business cabins, for example, like most of the bigger, let's say, network airlines, how do you fill it? You used to fill it for a big part thanks to corporations. Now you have to think about, probably a much more significant share of those seats that have to be sold to, let's say, leisure or personal journeys.
Okay, and Roland, is it the same view?
Well, traditionally, our share of business traveler is rather small because Greece is not a big corporate market. So we have a high share of leisure travelers. Greece, as a country, did a good job during the pandemic, was the best recovered country 2022 to the degree we can call it recovery. Greece is the only country 2022 that had more flight movements than 2019. So tourism to Greece is going well, is going very well. That's good for Greece, that's good for Aegean. At the same time, of course, every airline that has spare capacity sends a few more frequencies to Greece, like Stéphane does. And so it's busy, but it's good to be busy.
Yeah, good. So that sets the scenes on the customer side. The next topic, and that will link to payment, is the use of data and the use of customer data, because the next panel with us will be on creating personalized offers. So that will come later. But I think what's critical at our stage is how much data can you collect on customers, and is NDC changing anything in that, and are you getting all the data you need at that level? And so that's, your relationship with travel agencies, etc. I don't know, who wants to start? Yeah.
Well, I can start?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to be very, let's say, honest and down to earth on this kind of topic. I think we are collecting a lot of topics, a lot of data today on the direct online side of our business. Yeah. Very clearly, we are in control. We can really definitely track properly what is who is coming on the website, what our customers are doing, and what kind of thing they are finally purchasing. This is a completely different story on the other side of the spectrum, which is the indirect, let's say, distribution. where definitely on the paper we have a super nice concept, which is NDC, that you know very well, a part of which being now, thanks to NDC, in the future, when we will have adopted it massively, we will be able to know who is asking and control a bit, or control meaning like managing a bit better this customer relationship. We are not there yet. And definitely when we take things sequentially, we are still at a phase where we want the NDC adoption to grow, and this is not for granted, and we will probably talk a bit about it, because I think it's a concern for many airlines here. And so this question of the data on the indirect sales is really still at the very early stage. And we are even struggling, and this is kind of the opposite of what we are expecting, but we are even struggling with the volumes of requests that we are getting, mostly from the online travel agencies, because they are, of course, very big tech machines, so they can hit our APIs. And so, and this is hampering us from really having a proper connection with them. We have to think about caching, think about things to protect ourselves from those big volumes. And to give you an idea, today, NDC for us, it's like, if I just take the whole let's say, scope of distribution for France-KLM, everything that we sell, 10% of it is already on NDC, which is not bad. Huh? It means like more than 20% of the indirect sales. Those 10% compared to, let's say, 50% online direct, a bit less. The 10% of NDC are triggering more requests than the 50% of the online direct. Despite the meta searchers that are selling traffic to the online direct, NDC is crazy currently because of the OTAs adopting massively this technology, because they got that this is the place to go to find the best content, and they are technologically quite savvy, but they are eating our tech stack a bit strongly, so it prevents us from using the data properly. I know it's a bit like shunting the question, but this is where we are.
To me, it's right in the topic, because the say vision, and we talked about it, and Joost, at Lufthansa talked about that, where you have your one offer management and other, and then you have your customer data platform that you can connect through all the channels.
Absolutely.
So you're getting there, but you're saying that different channels are behaving differently, and you need to adjust that in that transition.
Absolutely.
Roland, you have a lot of NDC requests. Do you see the same thing, or did you find solutions for that?
Yeah, they ask like crazy. But I'd like to pick it up from your question about data.
Yeah.
We have massive data. The problem is silo, 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 silo. And we asked ourselves a couple of years ago, how many unique customers do we have? And that's a pretty easy question, damn hard to answer. And we have worked now 5 years to be 2 months before having a really nice CDP, a customer data platform, where we know a lot of things. But to unify the customer, that was a major exercise. Now, if they're a frequent flyer member, it's easy, we have the number. Everything else is more difficult, and our FFP penetration is about 25% of all our segments are flown by frequent flyers, so 75 are not. So we have put a lot of work into that. By now we know a lot of things. We have all ticket, we have all DCS information, we have all PNR information, we have all loyalty, we have the customer demographics, we have the email engagement, so if we communicate to them by email, we know who opens, who has not opened, who clicked, whatever we're going to have, the 50 million annual, current 50 million annual web searches, what is happening on our site. We're adding full revenue accounting data, including rebooking, refund, and whatever. We're adding disruption data, we're adding World Tracer data, so we're going to have a very good picture about who is our customer. And that's kind of at the core of e-retail, because it's about customer centricity. And we are still, after a couple of years of effort of trying to go into an offer management e-retail solution, we're still not nowhere, but at the very beginning. But we can use this data, and I can give you an example. Last year, Europe was a very bad travel experience. The delays were everywhere for many reasons. And one day in the morning, I get an email from Carsten Spohr from Lufthansa, and he apologized for the delays. And I didn't travel Lufthansa for 3 years. I couldn't care less about Lufthansa's delays. So what we have done is we have looked at who of our customers were delayed, how often, and how much. And we have created a scale from 1 to 10, no impact, to medium, to high. I think the last category the team called haters, question mark. They have been so many times so much delayed. Then we built a matrix with RFM, recency, frequency, monetary value. And we said, okay, how much delayed are you? How valuable you are from a monetary recency frequency perspective? And then we sent different messages. Those with medium impact, they just got a letter we acknowledge. Then those with more and more valuable, they got miles. Some got an upgrade in tier level. Some got 30% off for their next flight, and some got 50% off for their next flight. So we had a message, and that's where e-retail comes in, but a message that was relevant to them. And this is where we need to go. And we are on a very good way with customer information. And now we will need to find a way, like you said, Stéphane, at the time of the request, to be able to identify and then make the offer.
Yeah. Which you cannot do today if it's a GDS, because the GDS creating the offer on your behalf.
Indirect we cannot.
Indirect you cannot.
And in direct, it's getting exciting soon.
Yeah. So on that note, how do you differentiate content that you have? So you say you still have 10% or less on the GDS, on the defact. On your direct channel and on NDC, you have the freedom to do what you want, correct, contractually?
Yep.
How do you differentiate? Did you take advantage of that difference?
Not yet.
Not yet.
We missed that piece of technology for offer management. However, you can do things. We created a subscription program for the youth, 18 to 25 years old. We have created an own booking flow for them. We communicate with them differently. So that goes into that direction. But so to say, on old technology. What we launched last week, if you make a search on our website and you add a child or an infant, we take one of the standard fare families out and we put the family fare family there with special attributes relevant for families.
Okay. And you, Stéphane, how far advanced are you on the? I know you removed some fares on GDS side.
Yes. So on the content, let's say per channel, we are not yet at the stage where we are really, let's say, disclosing and enjoying all the benefits that NDC should bring. What we are at now is definitely having this NDC adoption happen. And so the first thing very important towards the whole indirect world is to sort of guarantee that thanks to NDC, they will have first a content which is really comparable to the website. That's extremely strong commitment if you want them on board, which is really something difficult. And again, maybe we will come back on that, but it takes a lot of time. It changes completely their ecosystem of working environment, plus economics. So it's really heavy for them, travel agents. So you need to guarantee something appealing, which is at least good content compared to the website. Then, to force it a bit more, you have to probably differentiate from the EDIFACT technology. On this, you can observe on the market there are so different behavior from the airlines. You have very cautious ones that I would say we are rather on that side of the spectrum. You have very blunt ones, meaning removing strongly content from the GDS, which I must say is from a producer perspective like we are is sometimes very appealing because guys, yeah, that's the way forward. It takes forever, so let's do something like that. And sometimes I'm a bit happy that some of them are doing it. I'm not naming any, but it's quite clear because it paves the way. It's a bit tough for them. I think someone yesterday said that, which is a bit difficult in this business sometimes, that you don't want to be the first because it hits you first, and you don't take all the benefits of it, and the one behind you are enjoying it better. So that's a bit what is happening on NDC. You have some strong front runners, and I think it's really helping the whole industry. On our side, we are more cautious, but we definitely, just because, you know, look, basically when you have a wide range of travel agents still selling your tickets, it's not to preserve their business that we are doing this, it's just because we need them. We need them to sell to people who don't want to go on the website, who want to have like a full service with, you know, a package which is properly done. We need to sell to corporations that they really don't care about the website. They have some very strong partners like the big TMCs. So all that is a part of our business which is here to stay for a long time. So we need to be quite business-minded with them, and that's why we are, let's say, removing content from Edifact at a pace which is going along with their technical capabilities to switch to NDC. That's what we try to do, but honestly, sometimes it's a bit frustrating because it's super, super long.
Takes a long time.
Takes a long time.
So we are, but we understand, you know, what's there. But we also hear from Roland that you know the end is near. We had Lufthansa yesterday saying 2028, no more Edifact, etc. Finnair said like 2025. So it's taking a long time, but we see like in the 3-5 years, you know, the end of the Edifact and the offers and others. We are moving now, you know, between distribution and slowly towards payment. On maybe the last point on distribution, a question I have for you is, and the theme also of today is about ancillaries, right? So what difference does it make to you when you're modernizing distribution for the sale of ancillaries? You know, Roland, again, you're more advanced in that journey. How has it changed your mix and the sale of ancillary, the fact that you implemented more modern distribution?
Right. We introduced a new metric. I call it RASK Plus. We cannot measure any more revenue per available seat kilometer, which is basically the revenue of the ticket without ancillaries. We need to measure RASK, including the ancillaries. And you know, what is ancillaries revenue? You have your light fare, then you have your flex fare, and you have your comfort flex fare, which the price difference is basically coming from ancillaries. So we started to systematically measure the upsell from light to flex and comfort flex, and we call it ancillary revenues. It goes into the traditional RASK measurement, not in RASK Plus, but this is where it starts, and this is why we need to change our thinking, and this is why I'd like to turn the question. For me, it's not about the mix, it's the totality of it. Okay. And this is the way we need to look at it. This is the way we need our systems to work. This is the way we need to report, and this is the way we need to talk about it.
Totally. And we're coming to that. Christian, I think
I just wanted to add on,
yes.
on Roland's comment. I did a study. It was an airline that asked me to describe a little bit what we see from a Mastercard perspective. So we did a comparison pre-COVID until now on ancillary revenue development. We looked at the North American market, we looked at Europe, and we looked at Asia Pacific. We compared low-cost carriers versus network carriers. In the US, we could see that actually network carriers were growing faster in ancillary growth, but coming over to Europe, it's totally the opposite. Still, the Ryanairs, the EasyJets, and the Wizz are growing much faster than the network carriers. While in Asia Pacific, we see that it's pretty even. They grow at the same pace, basically. So what does it tell me? It tells me that basically there are carriers that are typically laggards of adopting to a new philosophy of promoting and pushing for ancillary services. There are followers and there are leaders. And I think that airlines today need to really look at and understand what does it take to position and reposition themselves holistically as an airline in the ancillary space, because I like the RUSK plus definition, because you can no longer look at the revenue per seat without taking all the other ancillary revenues into consideration, because your revenue management system will optimize wrongly if you only optimize based on your ticket sales or your ticket revenue, because there is potentially other customers that would benefit or be better to pick because they have a higher, so to say, total revenue for the airline.
Totally. What's your view, Stéphane, on
No,
that?
I fully recognize what has been said, and I would say ancillaries, it's definitely a structural trend, at least in our business, but I think it's really the same for most of the big airlines. For years now, we see that we are, let's say, descoping a bunch of revenue from the traditional fares to something which is on top of, and which is really growing at that sort of pace for, I would say, a decade. I would add something around the distribution aspect of it, because this is also very important. 10 years ago, I remember when we started what we call the branded fares on the European network, to actually fight against the low cost, because we had to decrease our entry levels in terms of fare levels, and so we of course got rid of some perks of those fares and put it like we had an option where it was, okay guys, do we have this kind of dry fare on top of which we will add options, or do we create some dry fare plus another fare with something on top of, plus another fare with something on top of, and brand it in a certain way? We have decided to go for those branded fares, and actually one of the big reasons is distribution, because if we had been only through something with dry fare plus option, the aspect of the capability of distribution of it would have been quite poor 10 years ago, in particular because the indirect world was not really strong at it. And what is changing today, which is really interesting, and it loops back to our distribution discussion, is that, of course, on the website, we are selling tons of ancillaries, and we are thinking about new ideas, but I'm not going to disclose it now. But so this is really the place where it happens. But on the indirect sales side, it was poor for a long time. And now, thanks to NDC, things are changing. Because technologically speaking, it will be much easier for the travel agents to do it. And what we already observe in the little amount of penetration that we have for NDC now, that already the share of ancillary is better than on the traditional scope. This is really a remarkable aspect of it, which is important to mention. And just to conclude on that, NDC is also allowing, beyond the pure capability to sell basic things, allowing to create new products. And that's a bit why we've done it also in the first place. And we are creating now sort of new packages with a different kind of options attached to it. And thanks to NDC and the new technology, we can make it much more dynamic than the let's say, historical branded fares, which are a bit fixed, and with some discounts depending on who is buying it and what kind of network, Flying Blue status, things like that.
Good. So, yeah, Roland, and then question, yeah.
I'd like to do, it's more distribution and payment, but I think the technology is changing, distribution is changing. We have, as airlines, we have been caught by the GDS into an environment that was not healthy. And on our side, we are out of it because we have no more full content agreement with the GDS. And in other words, we can do whatever we want. And that's a good feeling. And that's a nice place to be. And I think on that we need to build in distribution. The .com, for me, is the best channel for 2,000 reasons. This is the place where I know most when the customer comes, and this is where I can make the best offers. And that's not going to change. And on that, I want to capitalize, and I want to incentivize the customer to come to .com, And if I cannot do the same bundling or approach through any other channel, so be it. What it means is, I think the regulators, they will always make sure we have anonymous offers, so without customer revealing anything. And that's going to be the highest price. That's going to be the most expensive offer I have, and the more I know, the more I can discount, and I can bundle and I can discount. And that, in my opinion, we just need to be smarter than in the past, where we said we're going to do it only if I can cover all channels. I believe, no, I'm going to do it when I can do it on .com. If I cannot give the same incentives through the other channels, that's too bad. And that takes guts, but we need to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Just want to add a quick comment on the distribution side. I've seen that the industry has been too long focusing on maximizing revenue, selling seats. But guys, you're not selling seats, you're selling travel experience. A passenger booking an airline ticket is not super enthusiastic about sitting in a seat for 6 to 8 hours across the Atlantic. It doesn't really care. It's about what I'm going to do when I reach my destination. So this is where the distribution should look at. How do I maximize travel experience? How do I maximize airline revenue in the total travel experience chain, which starts in the planning phase of a trip, the journey at the airport, on board, at the destination and coming back. But very few airlines, apart from low-cost carriers, and I see some of them are very successful in maximizing total ancillary revenues across the whole travel journey. Very few scheduled network airlines are actually thinking beyond the airport and point-to-point service that they provide.
Fair point. So Christian, now that we've heard, the progress, and as you say, this is the future where we're going. But the progress now we heard on distribution, modernization, understanding the customer, being able to make the offers, increase the ancillaries. Next topic is payment. Yeah. How do you see airlines approaching payment? Do you see payment as a way that will increase knowledge about customer, make better offers, etc.? Or do you think it's going to be a fight on the cost and on the contracts, etc., like we've seen on the GDS, etc.? How do you see that happening?
So that's a very good question. So again, I'm not the payment expert of Mastercard, but I'll give you my view. My recommendation would be not to go into the classic GDS fight, which was taking away content, and that was kind of a power struggle. I think the addressing the cost issues of an airline, payment cost. First of all, what is the payment cost? Is it the acceptance cost of an airline ticket, or is it also including the cash flow aspect? How quickly do I get my money, basically? And there are systems to speed up the revenue for the airline. Is it about increasing the conversion, reducing decline rates online? Is it about reducing fraud cost? There are many aspects that could be defined. But my point is, I think airlines need to enter in dialogue with the parties in a cooperation mode. What can we do together in order to accelerate on the revenue side? There are a lot of things that can be done, and bring the cost aspect into the picture. If you only focus on the cost, there will be no schemes that would be willing to listen. Like the GDSs, they were not interested to listen, basically. But if you enlarge the discussion into a more holistic approach, saying what can we do in order to boost revenues and look at payment as a part of that process, I think there is ways to move forward.
I'm somehow skeptical. Big animals and small animals, and here we are the small animals. I'd like to bring a different angle. It's about how would the customer like to pay?
Sure.
And the customer today pays predominantly by credit card, but the alternative form of payments are here, they are growing, and so for me, and I'm the commercial guy of the organization, when I think about payment, it is about, do I offer the form of payments the customers need? And that will lead into conversion as well. And of course, then there are all the technical stuff you said as well. Now with the big credit card companies, I wonder if they're really ready for a collaborative approach that you describe, or we're going to have another GDS experience.
So I can only talk for Mastercard, and obviously we have very close cooperation with large airlines across multiple geographies, where we do have this holistic approach, where we bring substantial value to the airlines. We talk about airlines where we contribute with hundreds of millions of dollars yearly through the solutions that we bring on board, where payment is part of it, where the data insights is part of it, where business experimentation is another part, where loyalty solutions is yet another part. So we welcome these kind of holistic dialogues, and I think this is the only way forward. And that's a smart way of moving forward and helping airlines to grow. Because you could focus on your cost, you could save cost, but if you forget about the most important thing, how you grow your business, how you accelerate your revenues, I mean, it costs to generate revenues. But if you can reduce your cost by saying, we don't accept credit cards anymore, okay, good luck. It wouldn't work.
But that's it. So how do you, because as you said, you've got airline background and you understand the discussions and how modernizing distribution. You work for Mastercard. How do you, but you heard the point from Roland to say...
No, I take Roland's point very seriously.
Yeah, so how do you, in the airlines in the room there, if I'm an airline and you have to hear, what's the next step to start a dialogue to give the customers the payment method they want, credit cards and others, and how do you improve the customer experience that when they are shopping in that NDC context? Airline know the customer. You talked about data insights. How does that happen? What's the next steps in that journey?
So we need to sit down around the table and have a very holistic approach.
Yeah. So the table is here. So let's do it.
And we should break those silences. It cannot be a discussion which is only revenue management or only product or only payment. We need to have a kind of cross-functional discussion with the airline to see what are your main focus and visions and priorities moving forward. How does, from a Mastercard perspective, our technology, our data, our solutions fit into that journey? How can we build partnerships moving forward? That's a discussion we are ready to take at any time. Yeah. And we do already with large airlines around the globe.
And do you see more and more airlines that are equipped with the customer data platform that Roland was talking about, that they are ready to integrate your data? Because, of course, you know a lot about the customers because they buy a ticket with those airlines, but they buy many other things with your cards. So how can you, are you free to share that data, or how does it work?
So that's what we do. That's my role.
Yeah.
Really to bring that insight,
yes.
Enhance the insights that you already have. And I'm really pleased to hear what you were doing from Aegean's perspective. But today, my general view of how airlines deal with data, it is very silent. And I think, Stéphane, we talked about it, that it sits all over the place, but there is no holistic view of it. Revenue management have a set of data, marketing has a different set of data, revenue accounting, the P&R information sits elsewhere. But no one has a holistic BI tool which actually gives a better picture of the customer. Today an airline know the loyalty frequent flyer, say 25–40% of your passengers are frequent travelers. You know them by name, by address, by the treasurer. He will look at it from his perspective, his lenses, saying that what can I do to reduce the payment acceptance cost in isolation. He doesn't care what Roland is generating. I'm maximizing my treasury KPIs. And I think that's very dangerous. We need to have a more holistic view of payments in total setting of where the airline is moving.
So let me ask one more question about now the organization inside. We talked a lot about silos, right? But we talked about modernization of distribution and then payment from a process and technology. But if you keep the same silos in the organization, how is it going to work? For example, NDC introduced the concept of offers and orders. But who's your head of offers in an airline?
Yeah.
Your head of distribution, who's the head of offers?
Very, very simple. We have chosen to split, for example, revenue management from offer innovation.
Okay.
Because naturally, initially, it would have been the responsibility of revenue management to develop new, let's say, new ancillaries, new options. I mean, most of them, I would say. And we have done this sort of spin-off because traditionally the revenue management is really, I wouldn't say in general conservative, but a bit, because they are managing the money and their goal is to really make sure that, of course, we are innovating, but also that we are not losing like the big gold mine that we have in some spots here and there. So from a mindset perspective, it's interesting to split a bit the two. And of course, all of them are reporting to the same person, the CCO of the company, of the group. But at least we have two different mindsets, revenue management on one hand and innovation on the other.
On the offer.
On the offer. And on the payment side, which is interesting is that today, compared to what we had before, it's not treasury or finance on one hand and the commercial on the other hand. Within my team, distribution, we have some people that are in charge of payment innovation.
Okay, so you have distribution and payment under the same.
Yes, exactly.
Roland, who's the head of offers in Aegean?
So we have recently changed a couple of things. The offer for me is the revenue part, or RASK Plus that I mentioned before. We put together everything that is going towards the revenue part. I include here network because that's the backbone of our revenues. So it's network, RM, pricing, and the air ancillaries. That is, for me, the one part. The other part we talked about is the customer and the products, and we put digital and marketing and e-commerce together in the second pillar. So for offer management, it needs the two pillars, and they work together, and we separate it into the initial offer. So whenever I get a request, I go back with an answer that comes out from revenue and the network and revenue pillar. And then if I want to adjust my initial offer, that comes out from the other pillar, from the digital and marketing side. Now, order management is then going across, needs IT for PSS, needs revenue accounting for settlement. That we have not aligned.
Okay, so that's the next step. But yeah, if we agree that you need organization to be aligned with the new way you want to do business and the whole thing. And where would payment sit on the commercial side, on your side? Where would payment sit? Would it be on the RM side, on the customer side, or both across?
The payment is on the digital side.
On the digital side, okay. Okay. Good, thank you. I know we're running out of time. And I have a question. So, Ricard, please say your name and...
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you very well.
I'm Ricard from LATAM Airlines. Thanks a lot for your insights. Roland, I totally agree with what you said about payments being underrated in terms of importance, relevance, and complexity. We have been working a lot in improving the payment effectiveness. We have discovered that we were losing a lot of opportunities for payments that were not successful, and working in understanding where did it fail, if it was false positive on frauds or our way to orchestrate the services, if it was something that we could improve or that was out of our hands, was a real journey and really complex and took us a lot of effort. I wanted to know how has it been on your side, if you have had any experiences in working in trying to improve payment effectiveness.
Right. We have one thing we have done is if a customer is exiting at the payment level, we ask him right on the screen, why are you exiting? And we get great insights. I mean, things you don't think about. They're looking for a field. They were one example. They were looking for the field of the promo code, and we had it only at the beginning of the flow. So this is one example, or whatever. So just right there, asking the question and starting to analyze what the customer is telling you why he's exiting. And then, of course, there are systematic problems which we also look into, failure rates and stuff.
Okay, thank you. I'm conscious we're out of time, so I'd like to just wrap up now. I just want to thank our three panelists. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for your attention, and we are closing this panel right now. We have a break, so I invite you to join the break outside, and see you again in 1 hour. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.